All right, so that was a lot of awesome information from a great company. And the history, as everyone knows, I'm pretty big on being a history buff and the exciting things that happen in food and culinary history. And I think that Blount, being from 1880, has a lot of that. I'm going to let Christina grab this last piece here, and then I'm going to bring in our next guest. Thank you very much. So, in continuing our National Soup Month, I want to welcome Dan in. And Dan is from Trattoria Express. Also another little empire that we're going to get into here and talk about. This one here for us. Beautiful. Oh my God. So, thank you, Dan, for coming in first of all, because I had to make sure Dan knew that this was going to be easy. I wanted to keep it easy for him. So the other part I want to talk about with Trattoria Express is that you guys hear me talk about Lincoln and that there's good food in Lincoln, but I'm always in Providence. But this is literally 2 minutes from my house, so it makes me very happy that I can go and find these amazing soups and the other products that they carry that we're going to get into 2 seconds from the house. So before we get to all these amazing products that you have, tell us about the concept of the Express.
Well, the Express was the original concept. The owners had a favorite location in Rome. It was a wine bar deli concept.
My kind of people.
And they wanted to bring that concept over to Rhode Island. And they did expand on that particular concept where the Express in Lincoln is a little more of a hybrid location that isn't just a wine bar and a deli, but also incorporates some aspects of a bakery, and also incorporates some aspects of a traditional. Where we're in New England, they brought in a raw bar aspect also.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
My God, I completely missed the raw bar. Speaking of wine, cheers to you and Happy New Year. Thank you for making the time to come in. Okay, so I can tell you, and I'm going to let him talk about the soups in a minute, but this wine goes perfectly with 2 of these 3 soups here. So let's talk about the concept, again, in that regard, is that there's a name that keeps sticking out. So I was getting different names that were thrown out about the Express.
Correct.
So what is that? I just call it the Express because I'm in Lincoln. I think probably people in Lincoln make up their own things. So I don't know.
It can be a little confusing because we do have our fine dining restaurant next door, which is Trattoria Romana. So the TR in the TR Ginger Express comes from Trattoria Romana. Some people call it TR Express, some people call it Ginger. And I think it kind of embodies what is kind of going on in that particular location, because there are a lot of different aspects to the restaurant. So the fact that people kind of have different names for it kind of works right along with the fact that it's just such a multi-faceted business.
Yeah, it's unique.
It is. It's very, very, very unique.
So we're going to get more into the other products, but I want to, of course, go back to the National Soup Month. And we're going to also get into kind of the empire. I don't want to forget about that because I've got a lot of people that have talked about how excited and they visit all the different places. But let's go back to the soups for a second. What did you bring me here today?
Well, what I tried to do today is bring soups that we always have available.
Okay.
We have a traditional chicken tortellini soup. We use a cheese tortellini. It's a traditional chicken soup, celery and carrots with a chicken stock base. And the main thing about chicken soup is the chicken. So it's freshly roasted chicken that's been originally on the bone and expertly picked off the bone. And, so it's fresh chicken soup, which of course this time of the year is perfect. I also brought in a French onion. A lot of our soups are very traditional. We're kind of an old school Italian theme, so we try to go with traditional recipes. Our French onion is very traditional. We actually use a little bit of a beef stock, freshly sliced onions. We do a blend of cheeses. There's always traditional onion soup has Swiss cheese. Of course, we're an Italian restaurant. We put mozzarella and Parmesan on everything. So we put some mozzarella and some Parmesan on there. And then this is our signature pasta fagioli. Of course, with Italian dishes, you could probably ask 10 different people how to pronounce that particular soup, and they'll pronounce it 10 different ways. Yeah. I call it pasta fagioli, but you'll hear it called pasta fazool, and a couple of other pronunciations. But ours is traditional with a little bit of a chicken base, fresh carrots, celery, onions. We use a ditalini pasta, which is very traditional, and then also fresh cannellini beans.
So these are 2 of my favorites that I'm a regular in getting at the Express, and I can tell you the hours because I know it opens at 11 o'clock because by 11:45 I'm over there getting it. So that
We appreciate your business.
So,
we appreciate it.
so I can tell you that for sure. And that's predominantly when I go there is in the afternoon. So people can walk right into the Express. They can sit down and enjoy these there if they'd like, or they can take them out like I usually do.
Correct.
So some of the other soups that you carry, because it's usually like 4 or 5, I think.
Exactly.
Right?
So I wanted to bring the ones that we always had available.
Okay.
But
so
we also
always
have
available. You mean like year round?
Exactly.
Okay.
So year round, these are always going to be available to our customers. But then we're always doing fresh soups of the day. Italian wedding soup,
There you go.
Italian wedding soup, very popular. Of course, Friday in New England is a chowder day. We will mix up the chowders a little bit. We'll do a traditional white New England chowder. We'll do a Manhattan style red chowder. And then also Rhode Island has a more brothy clam chowder. And we will try to mix those 3 chowders in on Fridays. We also do a fresh broccoli cheddar. And then depending on the time of the year, you can do some lighter soups in the summer and the spring where you can even do like a gazpacho. This time of the year, people are leaning more towards more heavier, heartier soups.
Yeah.
So you could put a beef stew in there. And sometimes we'll even run like a Southwest chicken or chili.
So obviously you've got a ton of variety
Yes.
just from everything that he just went through. So that variety expands from the Express, but also certain ones that you mentioned that are carried, probably some of these are carried year round at the restaurant.
Correct, right through the restaurant chain.
Okay.
We try to be we try to conform as much as possible, so that if you get something at one location, you're going to be able to get it at another location, so we can be consistent. So these, again, one of the reasons why I brought these particular soups is because all the locations carry those soups, so they can count on having those. And then, of course, we mix in chef's choices.
So speaking of chef's choices, good lead in is that, and we're going to talk more about the other restaurants in just a second as well, but sticking with the soups for a minute is that all the ingredients, everything that comes from these is made in-house with your chefs.
Correct.
They're
Even the French onion, we bake our own fresh bread, so you're going to get a nice fresh baked crouton in there,
okay.
which is, just the icing on the cake as far as.
And you mentioned the chicken, how it's roasted and done right in-house as
Exactly.
well, and going from it. So that becomes of great importance in a lot of this, and that was a lot of the comments, is that am I going to ask, are they everything made in-house, they're not ordering from the soups out. There's a combination of both, and I think that there is some, differences in that, and I want to just go back for a second to Blount, is that Blount was saying that they sell to certain places, so that is going to happen, but yet it's another great product. When you go to someone like the Express or the restaurants that we're going to talk about in a minute, it's made in-house by them and their chefs, so there's a different significance for it.
Correct. And customers, a lot of times, they're savvy.
Yeah.
And they know.
They know for sure. They absolutely know for sure.
Yes.
If something tastes like it wasn't made that morning, you're going to
Yes.
hear about it.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about Trattoria Romana as the group, because in Lincoln, you've got kind of like a plaza almost to yourself over there.
Correct. There's 3 locations in Lincoln, so we kind of, cover the customer bases depending on what the customer wants on that particular day, particular time. We can take care of them, whether they want to sit down for a traditional fine dining meal. You have Trattoria Romana.
Yep.
If they want to be in a little more of a casual atmosphere, maybe they have children with them, or maybe they just want to, they're on their lunch break and it want to be a little bit quicker and
Right.
don't have all day basically. They can go into the Express location, and they can spend as much time as they want in there. Express doesn't denote the fact that they have to be in and out.
Okay.
Again, like you said, they can go in and they can order and take things to go, or they can go and they can actually sit down and enjoy a meal. And then on the end of the plaza is our Pizzeria Romana, which is going to be more your calzones and your pizzas and your sandwiches.
And then is there other locations that the channel has as well?
Correct.
Okay.
So in Johnston, we also have a similar setup where we have Austria Toscana, which is your fine dining restaurant on one side of the plaza. Again, basically very similar to Trattoria Romana, a little more of a Tuscan style
Okay.
Italian menu, so that it was a little bit different. But again, white tablecloth fine dining. And then on the end of the plaza, you kind of have a little bit of a mixture. It's a very large pizzeria on the end of the plaza, but it's a little bit of a mixture between the ginger style restaurant and the pizzeria style, where you can get some nice salads and you can get some entrees, and you also have your sandwiches and your pizzas mixed in. But then there's also that aspect that Ginger has, where there's a little bit of an Italian market, and you can go in and get some fresh bakeries, some fresh pastries, and there's also a wine bar aspect to that particular location.
So, and Luciano, who is the proprietor
Yes.
of all the locations, has a very, I've met him a few times, and Pauline, who I want to give a nice shout out to too, helped make sure that we got coordinated with you to have you come in.
Of course,
Thank
yes.
you to her very much. But there's kind of, his traditions are very alive and well in all of these establishments. He keeps to his traditions.
He does. I mean, it started at Luciano's in Rentham, which opened up in 1990, and he's had his customer base, you know, it's 28 years now, and he's taken that consistency in that, you know, in those traditional recipes and that template, and he's moved it through all of his restaurants, so that customers, again, no matter which location they go to,
Right.
they're going to have that same feel. You're going to walk in, there's going to be murals on the walls, the
Right.
food's going to have a certain, a consistent level of quality to it. The service is going to have a level of quality to it, so that it's consistent throughout the company.
And these soups, as you mentioned, and I mean, I think you were up to like 7 or 8 by the time you talk about all the different varieties that can come out. The soups are available at each of these different locations at different times,
Correct.
at different dates. But going back to the Express, let's talk about the Express for a second in Lincoln and talk about the rest of the products that are in the Express, because you can go in and have soup and then have something else for lunch and sit down and enjoy, again, take it home. And then I got a few different questions that were sent to me about the catering.
Correct.
Because you can do regular catering from the Express, right?
We do both. We can do the pickup catering, the large pickup catering. People just want some prepared meals. They want some large platters to do a house party or do an office party. But then we also have a catering a division where we're able to cater a wedding, deliver large orders. Yeah, the Express is such a unique restaurant. It's almost like 4 restaurants blended into one, with the catering, with the raw bar, with the bakery, then with the traditional Italian menu. During the day, you can go in there, and we have a lot of local businesses nearby that they come in and they grab a sandwich, they grab a soup. But then also those people sometimes will come back at night and sit at the bar and have a nice glass of wine and sit down for a fine dining meal in a little bit of a more casual atmosphere,
Right.
and with table service.
So go to the bakery for a second. I got some questions on that. Has the bakery expanded some of the things it's carrying over the summer? People were saying that they were loving the bakery and that there's some new selections. And
Luciano is big on keeping things fresh,
stuff? Okay.
keeping things, switching up. He basically came in. If you walked into Ginger Express 6 months ago,
Yeah.
and you walked into Ginger Express today, there'd even be a different look. Everything gets moved around. Everything gets freshened up. Everything gets changed around. You know, nothing stays stagnant, including the paint on the walls and the
That's
light
fun.
fixtures. And he started doing that at Luciano's back in the, you know, when he first started there, where you know, he just continually is evolving
it.
these restaurants.
That's excellent. Now, you mentioned the raw bar. That's there now. So that's got to be an example of what you're talking about.
Correct. It's such a unique property because, again, kind of like the way the plaza is set up, where whatever you want, you can get it at one of the locations. You can walk into Ginger, where it's such a unique restaurant, and you can pretty much get anything you want in there. You have a raw bar, you have freshly made salads, you have the soups. You also could go in there and have a cappuccino and get you know, some freshly baked tiramisu.
That's the other part. So that was another question going to the desserts. Are the desserts made in-house?
They are made in house,
Okay.
and then again, we try to change them. Yeah, you're always going to have your tradition. He's big on traditions.
Yes.
All the restaurants are going to have their traditional bases. Even on the menus, you're going to have your masalas, you're going to have your parmesans, you're going to have those type of items that carry through your menu.
Right.
Just like with desserts, you're going to have your tiramisu and your eclairs and your cannolis. But then the other half of the menu is constantly changing to keep up with people's you know, variety of tastes, or maybe even what's going on, you know, with the current market.
So you mentioned earlier when we were talking about the soups, about kind of the seasonality of the different soups. Like you mentioned, the gazpacho can come in towards the warmer months and such. It seems to me, and you just mentioned his evolving of things, he's got to have a knack, and I would imagine he's still in great touch with his roots in Italy, of how he's changing the menu up seasonally as well.
We always had a joke ever since 1990. I started working for him in 1994. That every time he goes to Italy many times a year, he has a house there. He was obviously born and raised there. And every time he would come back, the menu would change. So we would prepare ourselves every time he left and came back that there'd be a change in the menu, and he still does that. And he likes to have everything fresh and local, And but then again, every time he goes away and he comes back, we know where we got the printer.
You're in
we
for-
got to call into the printer, and we're like, there's definitely going to be some changes on the menu, and we're going to be tweaking some recipes, and we're going to be trying some new things that he saw when he was over in Italy.
So, one of the things was I got a question about Luciano and about if I was going to cover Trattoria Romana. I wanted to do some quick highlighting, which Dan has been great at today, but my whole goal is to hopefully, in one of the future segments, is to bring Luciano in and talk about his history, his roots, that kind of things, and about the restaurant, its history. Because Lincoln, I think he was kind of one of the people that started having good restaurants in Lincoln. We don't have a ton of like these great restaurants that you can go out to, and he was kind of the pioneer and then expanded that plaza. So we owe him a lot of credit for that, of what he did in Lincoln, because that's phenomenal that you can go there and find all those great things.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. He had a very strong. What had happened is even when he was only in Massachusetts at the time, he did realize he had a very strong customer base coming from Rhode Island, and so when it was time for him to start looking for his next venture, it was just natural for him to start looking towards Rhode Island. And actually, at the time, he was living in Rhode Island, and realizing that there was a need. His customers were driving many miles to come out to Massachusetts from Rhode Island, and it's like, well, then let's give them what they want, and let's start.
And he was smart to do that. The growth of the suburbs from the culinary standpoint has been fantastic, and it's improved a lot lately. But I mean, coming into Lincoln, for me to be able to stumble upon you guys after living there a very short time was a phenomenal experience. So very happy that that's there. But we covered a lot about the soups. We did a lot of great touch points on the other establishments, gave an overview of the Express. He mentioned that these are the soups that are available year-round. One of my two favorites right here that you can always get in and grab. And I have to honestly tell you is that I wait one time to meet someone that was coming to meet me, and I sat at the bar and had a glass of wine before they came, and it's the nicest experience to sit there and relax. So he mentioned that you could do that, and I also then had a cappuccino afterwards. So it's a great little spot to be able to go in and do that. And if you want the other, accommodations that they have, they're 2 seconds out the door, walking to your left or your right. So Dan, thank you very much for making the time to come in. I really appreciate it. Tried to keep it as easy as I could for you. Did I forget anything?
Thank you. No,
All
I
right.
appreciate it. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, really appreciate you coming in. Christina's going to help you get those out for a second. There you go. I know these smell amazing. Christina, you can't have the onion one though.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you again.
Thank
Dan.
you.
All right.